Hi everybody, it's Jen and I'm going to take you through a quick tour of the different objects that are in an Access database and how they are all connected by what are called relationships. So, as you saw previously, we have a bunch of different tables here. And for example, we have a table about employee information. So we can see that we have names and addresses and phone numbers, and you can see that we have an insurance plan ID number here. You can see that each employee works in a different work sector, and each employee has a different insurance plan. You can see in this table here that we have different employees that were absent, and you can see that they're listed by their ID number, and you can see that there's the date that they were absent and then the reason why and whether they were paid or not for that day. Then we can see a list of the health insurance plans that are available and the ID numbers. And here we see a list of work sectors. So you can see here that all of these different tables are actually related to each other. They're connected to each other. They are having relationships with each other. So how does that work? This is what makes a database magical. This is what makes it really work, is that you can connect all the different tables within your database. So I'm going to go ahead and take you to what's called the database tools. Uh, and you can also view this. You can double click to open up what are called the relationships. Oops, single click. Um, you can see that here, this is like a mini map of how these tables are related to each other. You can see that the employee table is related to the absence report table by the employee ID number. You can see that. You can see that the insurance plans are related to the insurance plan ID right here. You can see that the work sectors are related to the work sectors of the ID. You can see they're all kind of linked together through relationships. Now, you could see also that inside the employees table, I could only see the insurance plan ID, and maybe I want to find out. I'm going to go ahead and close this. I want to find out which uh, which employees were absent and which insurance plan they have, because I have this sneaking suspicion that people who have the less expensive insurance plan that doesn't really cover very much, that makes it that they have to pay a lot to go to the doctor, are absent more because they didn't get to go to the doctor. Of course, I'd need to go ahead and do a whole study to find that out, but I'm curious about it. So what I would do inside my database would be what's called a query. So you can see here that I have these different tables of information, but I can get a new table called a query, and we'll learn how to make those by essentially grabbing information, related information from those different tables. So I'm going to go ahead and double click to open up this query. And you can see that I pulled information in this query from the employee ID that was connected to the employees table. So I got their first name and their last name. I got their plan type and their level from the the health insurance plans table, and only got the information about the specific employees that were absent, and only got the specific health plan type and level from the health insurance plans table, and they're nicely mushed together here. So you'll learn how to do this. This is the magic of queries, where you could go ahead and ask how many people ordered our product from California last Friday but didn't pay. So you can go ahead and grab that information from your database, and that's called a query. A query is a fancy way of asking a question, and this is essentially the answer to your question. So you can see I have one query here. And queries can be performed to pull information from one table, but often they're used to pull information from multiple tables. And you can see that the icon looks like two tables overlapping or related to each other because it's showing that you could pull information from both. So we've looked at tables, we've looked at a query. Now we're going to look at some forms and reports. Now I'm going to go ahead and close these. And I'm going to open up here absence reports. Now what you'll see here is the exact same information that you saw in the absence reports table, but it is in a different format. So you can see that each record is viewed individually. So in a form, you get to see each record as like a page. This is not a very fancy form, but you can make your form formatted with a logo and all sorts of stuff. And you can see that this is actually just the same as this table absence report. And if I make a change inside this table, it will be reflected in the forms. And if I make a change in the form, it will be reflected in the table. They are two sides to one coin. They're just a different way to view the same information. This way, for example, if I worked at a doctor's office and I wanted to pull up just one person's record and not have all the other patients' records on the screen, or I wanted to pull up just one student's information and not see all the students' information on the screen, I might want to use the form format. Especially if you have a lot of information about one particular client or student or patient, it's nice to be able to look at it in the form view and just view that information. You can see that there's also an employee form. So I could look at just this employee's information. I could go ahead and fill out this form for a new employee as well. So rather than going down the table and seeing each item, I could go ahead and go through each part of the form. If I want to go to my next employee, you can see I have this cute little arrow down here, and I can click to the next one. And this will take me all the way to the beginning, all the way to the end. And you'll notice in Access, anytime you have a cute little sparkle like that, it's very cute, that means it'll make a new record. And that is true also inside the table. So if I went and clicked here, I would get a new record as well. So we've looked at tables, we've looked at queries, we've looked at forms. Now we're going to look at reports. You can see that I created a query about insurance plans here. And from this query, I created a report. I'm going to double click to open that up. And a report is where you take information either from a table or a query or a form, and you go ahead and you create a nicer looking version of this. Now, of course, this isn't very fancy. I could have a logo, I could have all sorts of information here, but a report goes and takes that information and allows you to format it and make it look nice. Also, you can see here that it added up how many absences there were. You could include all sorts of things in your report. So a report is just a nice way that you could go ahead and use to print out or share information from a database. And those are the main objects of a database. So that would be tables, queries, forms, and